Hello and welcome to the Around the Lens bonus topic. If you are a Patreon supporter and you're watching this on Patreon, thank you for your patronage. If you're not, that's okay. Just tell people about the show. That's fine. That's all we ask. Anyways, do support the show in any way you can, so we appreciate that. All right, so our bonus topic this week is actually kind of unique. It was suggested to me by our panelist Osvaldo, so I'm going to throw it to Osvaldo to basically moderate it. So Osvaldo, go for it, buddy.
Okay, so like here in Brazil, the couple of weeks we've been having like this whole crazy protest. One group is for the president Dilma, the other one is want her out. And during the major Sunday voting for the process of impeachment, I was confronted by one thing. I saw hundreds of photographers who were scared to go to the other side because the police made a big wall so that none of the groups could see them, and most of the photographers were afraid to go to one side and the other to show the truth. So I decided to ask this question, which is, when does your ideology blind you from photographing the truth? We always challenge to be storytellers, to always to photograph the truth, to always show the truth, especially as us freelancers, that there's always a huge weight on us because we're not affiliated to any specific media to just photograph the truth. But when does an ideology, blind you to actually show the truth to the people? Whoever wants to.
Pretty heavy topic. Anybody want to try and take that on?
I'll start.
Yeah, please.
All right. Yeah, I mean, as a photojournalist, when you're going to cover something, at least in my mind, I keep an open mind. I'm there to witness what's going on, excuse me, and capture what's going on. Whether I believe in what's going on or not, that's not my job that day. That's when I'm off duty. I can think about it, do what I want. But when I'm there in that moment, I'm there to show both sides, and a lot of times I get educated while I'm down there too on what's going on because, you're with one side and then you're with the other side, you're hearing back and forth from everybody. And it is true. I've seen people where, oh, this is all I want to show, this is what I'm into. But, while you're in photojournalism mode and doing your job, you have to be in the open mindset and covering what's there. Like I said, when you're off and you're hanging out with your buddies, you're more than welcome to your opinions. But people rely on us to show both sides, and if you're only showing your agenda, the one side, that's not true photojournalism. That's you might as well work for that organization or whatever's going on. But if you're shooting for news publications, wires, things like that, I think it's your responsibility to show both sides and the overall picture of what's going on down there.
Okay.
So I think that it's especially now with citizen journalism and kind of everything the way that the media kind of works now. It's one of the things that it's one of the reasons that pure photojournalists who really do nothing else, who it's their job to just take pictures, show what happened, and cover the story is really more important than ever. The police have their own video cameras. If you've ever been to a big protest, you're getting filmed along with the protesters. The protesters, every single damn protester has their camera out, has their video camera out, or has whatever, the cell phone out or whatever. Every single one, like as if 35 people, maybe 5 people could just be protesting. I come from kind of the old school back in the early 2000s, back before cell phone cameras, back when we used to protest like that. But I got into journalism because I got tired of activism. I used to be an activist during the Bush years and everything like that, and I got into journalism because I got sick and tired of being in the streets. 450,000 people in the streets during the 2004 RNC protests in New York City. Not a single person covered that story. I mean, we talk about media blackouts nowadays about Occupy Wall Street or whatever, but Occupy Wall Street got boatloads of coverage compared to 450,000 people, the largest protest in the history of the United States ever got. Because it got nothing. literally no coverage whatsoever on the national news. It's as if it didn't exist. I got into journalism because I wanted to cover the stories. So it's an interesting the way when you talk about that, where does your ideology get in? That's why I actually believe we need more staff photographers, full-time photographers who have no ideology, because I believe that, I mean, maybe like Kevin, you're essentially like a beat daily news photographer. You work for the Wire, you work for AP Wires and stuff like that.
Freelance, yeah.
Yeah, freelance. It may not go, yeah, exactly. It may not go for you as much, but almost every journalist that I know of, we're freelance journalists, and we pitch stories to places. And so I have to give a damn about the topic that I'm covering. Not only do I have to know about, like fully know about it, because I also write as well. So I have to fully know about it before I even step into something. And I have to care about it enough that I know that I'm going to drive 3 hours away, cover the story, come back, edit photos, spend time, pitch it to a place. So I feel like it's interesting, because I feel like almost every freelance journalist that I know of that works on kind of only works on like long-term stories or whatever, we're all biased to some level. The question is can our journalism be trusted? And I use this example. I've talked about it tons of times before. During Occupy Wall Street, I photographed Cicely McMillan. She was a protester who got kind of roughed up quite a bit by police, and then whether she hit a cop or not, that's up in the question. She went to jail for a month for it. I got photographs of it that tell a different story than she told in court, and that kind of existed on the record. And I worked with Reading Pictures, I forget what the new name is of the site, and we did this entire breakdown story of the evening, the full, like, I used almost every single photo I had of her in this story, and told her entire evening as far as much as we could tell it as she moved throughout the park, where she got arrested, she got hit, arrested, pulled into this gated off area, and then did a bunch of other things. And there's this famous Getty photo that everybody uses where she's looking straight into the camera. I have photos from the side that tell a completely different story of what happened. And I got a ton of hate from activists that were fighting for her to be freed, because I published those photos. And to me, that was one of my moments where I'm like, okay, so no one can accuse me of being biased on whatever side. But I guess I kind of went off, but it's interesting. I think we need we need more pure freelance photojournalists in all forms of media. I've been calling for it in kind of lefty media, like in these Times, the Nation magazine, or whatever. None of these places have a single staff photographer. There's not a single staff photographer in the entirety of the liberal media, of the like actual lefty progressive media that works. There's maybe 3 other people in the entire industry that I know of that shoots exclusively kind of for them. I'm like one, and then there's like 3 other people. But I think that it's the fact that like photographers are one of the few journalists that can actually showcase what happened without necessarily without ideology. And obviously we can go into the whole cropping photos and kind of editing ideas and selections of what we show. But if we had editors to talk to that would choose from the wide edit of our photos, I think that we could, kind of have a better media as overall. And I don't know if any of that made sense at this point. I rambled on 3 different subjects, but it's
you bring up some interesting points, and I want to just address those before we get too far away from them. You said about staff photographers. We need more staffers, and then going back to what we were talking about in the main show, we talked about cropping, and we talked about where do you point your camera. And I think sometimes our ideology is driven by that because, for the most part, the industry is primarily freelancers. It's rare to have, working staffers. So I think when you're a freelancer, you're doing kind of whatever puts money in your bank account, whatever puts food on the table, and that might drive what you choose to, talk about and document. And we talked about representation. Well, you can have white albino, homosexuals. You can have Latino straight astronauts. I don't know. You can have every single shade and color of the rainbow.
What?
But at the end of the day,
I didn't know that
they're going to play
astronauts were a
their...
racial type, but okay. I believe North
just saying.
Carolina is currently trying to pass a law to ban astronauts from using bathrooms. But, okay. We'll continue on.
I support that. I support that law. Yeah, absolutely. Astronauts...
They're mostly from Ohio anyway.
Astronauts can use the astronaut bathroom, and they can damn well be happy about that. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. But all I'm saying is, like, sometimes ideology is what's ever going to put food on the table, money in your pocket, etc. But what I want to know from you, Osvaldo, is you mentioned there's like 100 people documenting one thing and nobody's documenting something else. Why do you think this is happening? Why aren't people documenting the other side of the story? What's driving this?
This is what's going on in Brazil. There is, like, Brazil right now, it's kind of like Venezuela during, like, Hugo Chavez, like, period when people was not sure who he was. The Workers' Party is a left party and has done a lot of things that some people might agree, some people might disagree. And they have been paying a lot of money, and I'm talking about taxpayers' money, so that, like, over 300 blogs should keep, like, doing stories about for them. And there's this one group, it's called the Free Journalism. They are, like, they're supposed to defend the freedom of journalism, but they're not supporting it. They are following an ideology of left side, and they just want to show only what it's in interest of them. When I, like, took that challenge on Sunday, the 17th of April, if I believe, yeah. And when I was photographing, like, the whole situation, I was with a friend of mine, one of the few friends of mine which, since at the beginning, I told him, listen, we're going to do this, we're going to show both sides. We're going to, like, walk around at least over, like at least for 14 hours non-stop, but we're going to show both sides. And yes, we have our own perspective, meaning, like, we have our own beliefs of what the situation is going on. But, like, when I like Kevin, right? When he says that when you put your foot on the streets, it's not who I am or what I believe. It's about what they are doing, what their life is about. And I always say this: my life, it's worthless if I cannot tell, like, what the person's like, voice. I cannot tell the voice of this person out to the world. My life is worthless if I cannot photograph, like, the story of this one person who's been going through so many situations. So for me, it's not about ideology. It's about showing what the real deal is. And during Occupy Wall Street, I did get a lot of hate because I was one of those photographers who thought about saying, listen, if you want to get my picture, you got to pay for it, And a lot of, like, left anarchist papers, they did not want to pay, And a lot of people got pissed at me. And that's what I believe. I believe, listen, it's a job, what I do, and you have to get paid. And not only get paid, I'm there to just show the truth. And if the truth goes against what you believe and you don't want to show that truth, then you're doing exactly like as Fox News is doing, as CNN is doing. You're just being a biased. And it's kind of funny because the same people who, like, say so many bad things about Fox News are doing exactly the same thing as Fox News are doing. They're not showing the truth. They're not showing the real big image. And most of the times, the big image is not what you want to show because it goes against what you are fighting for. That's where, I got this whole question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you mentioned in your comments, there's two sides to the story. One, obviously, one group is photographing one side and sort of not photographing the other side. What is the difference between the two sides? Just so, because I'm not fully up to speed on all the international politics.
Yeah,
I know it's regarding the impeachment, but
yeah,
what are the two sides again?
Yeah, it's basically like left and right wing. And
okay.
The majority of the population of Brazil, they want Dilma out. It's a small group of the population who still support her. and that small group of who supports her, who shows only like photographs, videos, whatever, of they supporting the president, while the other only shows and photograph like the others, like the group who wants her out. And there's
which group has
like
more coverage?
Right now, it's a group that it's against the president. Has been getting more coverage because there's been a lot of like issues about controlling the press here in Brazil. We have a lot of like censorship and going on, and most people are afraid that we become a Venezuela, where there's like they don't even have like toilet paper, you know, like for like taking a dump. They don't even have that. That's how the biggest problems are going on in Brazil. That the right wing right now has been getting a lot of voice out there because they are afraid that Brazil becomes another dictatorship, or like a left dictatorship. And the people who are the left side, they are afraid that Brazil goes back to the military dictatorship that we had between '64 and '84, and that's the whole fight that's been going on.
Okay.
And I haven't seen people showing the both sides. That's where it comes
So
to
primarily the coverage has been showing the anti-president right-wing side, right? Vice the left-wing.
Yeah. It's kind of like weak.
So I mean, could we find a correlation in there in like the United States, Kevin or Zach, with like the whole coverage of say Hillary and Bernie or Trump and Hillary? I mean, do you think there's a corollary there? Or do you think there's a corollary between
I think that with the Brazil, like, I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe the corollary is the comparison is like the way that a lot of events and protests are covered, less our political setup, because Trump. To me, I treat Trump as like a complete anomaly. It's the fact that he's a reality star, and that's why he's getting all this coverage, and it's just a big circle jerk of coverage because people cover it and talk about the coverage, and then they get to do more or whatever. In Brazil, it's I believe right. It's a little bit more of there's paid actors for coverage, like a lot like there was kind of on the flip side for the left in Venezuela with Hugo Chavez, who I mean I've written past on positively of Hugo, but kind of the same deal. No.
It's kind of the opposite.
Oh, the opposite. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, the left when they. I'm sorry. The right.
The left wing is getting paid to protest for the president, while the right wing the people have been going willingly to like asking for impeachment. So it's in Brazil, it's kind of like it's begun like this.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I mean, it makes me think of. I mean, this is like kind of a larger deal, but I mean, I think this kind of happens almost every day. Unfortunately, in American media, whether it be Donald Trump, we all go to Donald Trump rallies because we know those photos are going to sell. We all go to the protests outside when the Donald Trump protesters are going to crash together with the Donald Trump supporters, and we take those photos. And because we know those photos are going to sell. I've been at enormous protests before where a policeman, a couple police are arresting one guy who absolutely totally deserved to get arrested because he was screaming and throwing things and had his own thing going on. Everybody else was peaceful. The problem is that protest photographers converge on that one person. And so the story becomes violence at Occupy Wall Street, violence at whatever thing. There was protesters were, whatever. And never mind the fact that all of us are like going, what? Even the photographers who took the photo, we send in a dozen photos into our editors or our wire service, and somehow the story ends up being that one action shot, which I completely understand. It's a great, we grab great photos of action of people getting bloody on the face, whatever. Those photos sell, and they're awesome, and they belong as part of the story. But the problem is again, something I still to this day don't understand in online media. They run one photo with a story, which somehow they think expresses the entire story. I've gotten into fights with my editors. Unfortunately, never photo editors, but especially in lefty publications. And I'm going, you have an online site. Run 15 photos. Here's 15 photos. You paid me a day rate. Here's 15 photos. And then even if I say that and I write captions for 15 photos, they'll run 7. And I go, well, that doesn't tell this whole story of what happened. To me, like, especially if you're able to write, if you're not just uploading to a wire, which I do, I work for Neurophoto, you have an opportunity to tell. Oh, I'm sorry. You have an opportunity to tell a full story with photography. And unfortunately, editors, for the most part, or not editors, but whoever pays for photos and everything, choose one photo to describe an entire day's worth of an events. And they'll have a bunch of words that go along with it, and that's great. But you know that people see that photo, and that's what defines what happens. Whatever the photo is at the top of the story is what defines the emotional push of the piece. We know that photojournalism has that power. They've done dozens of studies on it, and NPPA just did a study about professional photography and the importance of it. And it kills me that, you know, I understand in newspaper there's only so much space, but now online I'm like, if you're going to run a 2,000-word piece, you damn well should run at least 6 photos. Unless it's some, you know, investigative piece that doesn't have like a real good photo angle, I suppose. But if it's a story of an event that took place over 12 hours, there's no photo that exists in time that describes an entire 12-hour period in one image.
Zach,
no one's that good of a photographer.
Zach, the thing is this: it's yes, editors are assholes most of the times. I probably will not have a very hard time finding a job now. I'm just joking. But like, they have a budget to spend. You know, they have like money, they have time. But like the thing is this: it's our duty as photojournalists that even if editors they don't show the full image, it's our duty to still send the full picture. It's our job to still show what's going on, and that's the thing that I saw a lot of that in Occupied Wall Street with those millions of like citizen journalism, which most of the cameras always tend to come in front of my lens, and I've seen this a lot happen here in Brazil. I've seen this happening in Paraguay. There's like small protests being on and going in Paraguay. I've been seeing this a lot happening all over the world, meaning that it's our job to show the truth. And people, they're not ready to see the truth. That's the biggest problem.
The problem is to me, the way where we're moving in most of photo sites. Kevin, I'm sure you do the same thing. You upload 8, 10 photos from a story to a server, to your wire or whatever, and you have no power over which photo they select. I tell an entire story from a 3-hour event, from a Donald Trump. Let's use the Donald Trump example again. I'll send 12 photos. Usually is about kind of what I try to shoot for. I send 4 or 5 photos of Donald Trump himself. One coming on stage, one of him with the person he's speaking with, and then 2 or 3 shots of him speaking and doing different things. And if you've covered Donald Trump, or most people, I mean, it's not just Trump, it's Bernie, it's Hillary, you know their routine and you know the things that they do. Donald Trump has a moment in time where he pulls out his speech. That's a great photo because people are usually waving signs as well. Donald Trump gets really angry at one moment, so you get a photo of him looking really passionate. And then you have a photo of him doing something ridiculous. I mean, like literally every single still, I have a template now, and I've only covered, I think, 5 or 6, maybe not even that many, Trump rallies. With Bernie, I've covered 3 or 4. I have a set thing. With Hillary, I've covered 3, I think, and I have a set. I know what photos I need to go when I walk in there. And then I grab for Trump, I grab the protesters. Every single photo and every single video piece that I do, the only 2 photos that sell from those pieces are Donald Trump looking angry and Donald Trump. I won't go for Donald Trump and then the protesters getting hit or the protesters getting spat on, protesters getting into a fight or whatever. Those are the 2 photos that sell every single time. There's a whole story, and I won't say that didn't define, those 2 moments don't define a Donald Trump rally, because they do. The anger is 100% is the story at Donald Trump rallies, and that's the story of his entire campaign, is anger at the populist, populist vote, everything like that. but that doesn't describe the usually say 4,000 to 5,000 other people who are just standing there listening to a guy talk. But they're not that's not interesting photos, which I completely understand. And luckily, I have a couple places that I sell those photos to. But the problem is it's not just photos. I have to write, 1,000 words or 800 words along with it, which, depending on the day, the night, the week, how busy I am, that doesn't happen every single day, and I can't do that because I'm a photojournalist first and a writer second or third, hopefully. But so it's like I feel like it's unfortunately not really up to us to tell the story as it used to be when we used to be able to have a conversation with our editors who work at the daily newspaper or at our newspaper and go, well, this is what happened or whatever. We really need to have these 2 photos in the paper or nothing, and that doesn't happen at all now. Like I've told a million times, I've had 2 total conversations with photo editors in my entire time working as a photographer. Every other time it's been an art director or a journalist who's working on the piece that is, using the photos, and that's the way the industry, unfortunately, really is for a lot of people. So. All
right, Kevin, you want to add anything to close out the topic?
I will I will agree with you on that too. You send in a certain amount of photos, and I'm always interested to see when they go up, what was picked, what order they went in, what's the one photo they are going to run in, the magazine or the newspaper. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely the cookie cutter. These are the standard that are probably going to sell and run every single time. And you do get almost caught up in knowing that you need to get that stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, I try my hardest to go outside, focus on something different a little, because it gets boring, and then you look at the photos online and 75 of the same shot from every different photographer that's there, and I want to stand out. I don't want to be just another talking head of Donald Trump or whatever it is. So you have to kind of get a little bit more creative and get out of the cookie cutter of what they expect. And then there's sometimes where you can always say, okay, well, I'm going to send you these 4, and these are what you like out of it, and that's what you send them. So sometimes you got to self-edit yourself.
Right. All right. Well, that concludes our bonus topic. Thank you, Osvaldo, for the subject matter. I appreciate that, and always thank you all for watching or listening. Appreciate your patronage. Have a great one.